There is a man living in exile in Moscow who has seen the inside of the surveillance machine. He knows which tools the NSA use to break into computers halfway around the world. He knows because he carried those secrets out of an NSA contractor facility in Hawaii, encrypted on a drive, and handed them to journalists in a Hong Kong hotel room in 2013. That man runs an operating system called Qubes. He used something called Tails before that. He has never, in any documented moment of his post-leak life, done serious work on Windows. That choice is the conclusion of someone who read the manuals the NSA wrote about how to break into your machine and decided he wanted no part of the system those manuals were written to exploit. This video is about that one reason, and the reason turns out to be bigger than most of us think, because it did not end in 2013. It is sitting inside your computer right now, running in the background, sending data you cannot stop it from sending, and, as of 2024, potentially taking a screenshot of everything on your screen every few seconds. Edward Snowden was right. He just did not know how right he would eventually turn out to be. If you are on this channel, you already distrust what Microsoft tells you about your privacy. You have probably seen the settings menu. You have probably tried to find the off switch for telemetry. If you are new here, stay with us, because what we are about to walk through is not opinion. It is documented. Some of it is in NSA training slides, some of it is in Microsoft's own technical documentation, and some of it is in a feature that Microsoft announced in May of 2024 that caused an international backlash so severe that the company had to pull it and rebuild it from scratch. We are going to start in 2013 with the crash report. Then we are going to come forward to today. And then we are going to show you what Snowden uses instead and why the woman who built it is one of the most important people in computing that most people have never heard of. Subscribe now if you have not. Every video on this channel goes places the mainstream tech press skips past. You have seen the dialog box. Windows has crashed, or an application has frozen, and a little window appears asking whether you would like to send a report to Microsoft. You click yes, because you want to help, because maybe they will fix it. Because most people assume the report goes to Microsoft and stops there. According to documents published by the German magazine Der Spiegel in late 2013, based on material from Snowden's leaked files, that assumption was wrong. The NSA unit responsible for hacking specific targets worldwide was called Tailored Access Operations, or TAO. According to the leaked presentation slides, TAO had set up a system in which, whenever a targeted computer sent a crash report to Microsoft, the NSA was automatically notified. The reports were transmitted unencrypted. That meant anyone intercepting the traffic could read them. And what was in those reports was not just a vague error message. The reports contained the applications installed on the target's machine, the version numbers of those applications, the driver versions, the hardware identifiers, information about what had crashed and why, and enough detail to build what security researchers at the time called a blueprint of the network. An internal NSA slide deck, which Der Spiegel reproduced in part, described Windows crash reports as a neat way to gain passive access to a machine. The slides even included a mocked-up version of the familiar Windows error dialog, with the standard Microsoft text replaced by the words. This information may be intercepted by a foreign signals intelligence system to gather detailed information and better exploit your machine. The NSA was not just reading the reports, it was using them to map vulnerabilities. If a specific piece of software crashed repeatedly on a target machine, that told TAO where to aim. Microsoft denied providing direct or unfettered access to government agencies. The Der Spiegel report described interception in transit, not a backdoor arrangement. But that distinction matters less than it might seem, because the reports were sent unencrypted. An 80% majority of the more than 1 billion Windows machines at the time were sending this data in the clear, according to security researchers at the firm WebSense, who analyzed the issue shortly after the Der Spiegel report appeared. Windows, by design and by architecture, was leaking a map of itself to anyone positioned in the network to catch it, and the NSA had made very sure they were positioned to catch it. Edward Snowden was born in 1983 in North Carolina. He worked as a systems administrator and infrastructure analyst for the NSA and its contractors, including at the Hawaii facility where he ultimately collected the documents he would leak. By the time he left for Hong Kong in May of 2013, he had spent years inside the apparatus. He had the clearances, he had seen the tools, he had read the operational manuals. He was also meticulous about his own operational security. He did not use Windows for the leak operation. The journalists he worked with, Glenn Greenwald and Laura Poitras, later described his insistence on encrypted, compartmentalized communication from the start. He used Tails, a Linux-based operating system that runs entirely from a USB drive, lives only in your machine's memory while it is running, routes all internet traffic through the Tor network, and when you remove the USB and shut down, leaves no trace on the host machine. Nothing written to disk. No browsing history. No session data. Gone, Tails was not a consumer product. It was built for people with genuine adversaries. It had been used by journalists at major investigative news organizations. Snowden used it because it was the right tool for someone who understood what the wrong tool could cost. Then, in September of 2016, he updated his recommendation publicly. His exact words, posted on his verified account on the platform then known as Twitter, were, "If you're serious about security, Qubes OS is the best OS available today. It's what I use, and free. Nobody does VM isolation better." He had migrated from Tails to Qubes as his primary operating system. The reason was architectural. Tails is built for amnesia. You use it, you disappear. Qubes is built for someone who needs to work day to day on a machine that never fully trusts itself. Both of them run on Linux. Neither of them is Windows. Before we explain what Qubes OS actually does, we need to talk about the woman who built it, because her story is part of what makes this entire conversation so striking. Joanna Rutkowska is a Polish computer security researcher. She founded a company called Invisible Things Lab in Warsaw in 2007. In 2010, she and a colleague named Rafał Wojtczuk began working on what would become Qubes OS. The operating system had its first public release in 2012. Before she built Qubes, Rutkowska was known for something else. She had presented at the Black Hat Security Conference in 2006, demonstrating a technique she called Blue Pill, a method of using hardware virtualization to slide a running operating system inside a virtual machine without the OS knowing it had happened. In other words, a way to take over a computer so completely that the victim machine could not detect the intrusion. The OS it was running inside of at the time of the Black Hat presentation was Windows Vista. That background matters. The person who designed the most secure desktop operating system in common use today is someone who spent years learning how to break into systems at the deepest possible level. She built Qubes not as a theoretical exercise, but as a direct response to what she knew was possible when an attacker had root-level access to a monolithic OS. The central idea behind Qubes is security by compartmentalization. Instead of running everything on a single operating system that trusts itself, Qubes runs multiple isolated virtual machines simultaneously. Your email runs in one virtual machine. Your browser runs in another. Your banking activities in a third. Your sensitive work in a fourth. Each of those compartments is called a cube. If malware infects the browser cube through a malicious link, it cannot reach the email cube, cannot reach the banking cube, cannot reach the files. The compromise stays contained. The underlying architecture runs on the Xen hypervisor. The administrative core of the system, known as DOM0, has no internet access by default. A network attack cannot reach the management layer directly. This is what Snowden is using when he does sensitive work. Not Windows, not macOS. A system designed from first principles by someone who spent her career demonstrating why trusting a single monolithic OS is the wrong approach. Let us stop here for a moment. You are watching a channel that covers stories the mainstream tech press tends to summarize or skip past. If this kind of depth is what you come here for, the comment section below this video is a good place to tell us what you want us to cover next. We read everything. Everything we described in parts 1 through 3 happened between 2006 and 2016. You might wonder whether any of it is still relevant. The telemetry architecture of Windows has not been reformed, it has been expanded. Both Windows 10 and Windows 11 collect what Microsoft calls required diagnostic data. This is the baseline tier, and there is no off switch for it that ordinary home and pro users can access. According to Microsoft's own technical documentation, required diagnostic data includes device configuration details, hardware specifications, driver versions, operating system version information, system stability reports, and crash reports. That last item should sound familiar. The optional diagnostic data tier, which is turned on by default, adds browsing history in Microsoft browsers, app usage data, typing and speech samples, and more granular crash and error information. Users can toggle optional data off, but they cannot turn off the required tier without digging into registry settings or using third-party tools that Microsoft does not officially support. Independent privacy researchers have noted that even switching all available toggles to their most restrictive positions does not stop baseline telemetry from reaching Microsoft's servers. Consumers, unlike enterprise customers with volume licensing and group policy controls, have no mechanism to fully stop it. Then, in May of 2024, Microsoft announced a feature called Recall. Microsoft describes Recall as a productivity tool. Its function is to take a screenshot of your screen every few seconds and store those screenshots locally, then use an on-device artificial intelligence system to make them searchable. In theory, you could type in a description of something you saw 3 weeks ago and find it. In practice, what this means is that Windows would maintain a complete visual record of everything you had done on your machine. Every private message, every banking session, every document, every password field, every email, every private photo sent to you by a family member. All of it captured, indexed, searchable, stored on your device. Security researcher Kevin Beaumont, who tested the initial version, reported that the database was not properly encrypted for threat models involving malware, that it stored credit card numbers and other sensitive information by design, and that a simple script tool was able to extract everything stored in it within minutes of proof of concept release. The backlash was severe enough that Microsoft pulled Recall from its initial rollout in June of 2024 and rebuilt it. The revised version changed Recall to opt-in rather than opt-out, added biometric authentication requirements to access the snapshot database, and introduced the ability to exclude specific applications and websites. But the secure messaging application Signal was not satisfied. In May of 2025, Signal added a feature to its Windows client that uses digital rights management to prevent Recall from capturing Signal's interface at all. Signal's developers stated explicitly that software developers should not have to implement workarounds to maintain the privacy of their services without proper developer tools. The browser Brave and the ad blocking company AdGuard added similar blocking functionality in July of 2025. Let that land for a moment. Major applications are now building Recall blocking code into their Windows clients as a baseline privacy measure. The tool designed to protect your communications had to defend itself against the operating system it runs on. Snowden has never said, in any documented public statement, stop using Windows. He has not issued a warning. He has made a choice, and he has explained that choice with 12 words. If you're serious about security, Qubes OS is the best OS available today. The word serious is doing the work in that sentence. Most people are not running from state-level surveillance. Most people are not handling information that intelligence agencies want. Snowden's threat model is extreme by any measure, but the architecture underneath the threat model is not extreme. It is the same architecture running on the machine most people in this audience use every day. The crash report that Windows sends when something freezes has spent more than a decade broadcasting your software inventory in the clear. The telemetry layer cannot be fully switched off, and the newest AI features photograph your screen continuously and store the results in a database that security researchers cracked on day one. None of that is conspiracy. All of it is documented. The NSA built its crash report interception system because Windows made it easy. Recall existed because Microsoft decided that photographing your screen was an acceptable trade for a productivity feature. Neither of those decisions was Snowden's. neither of them was yours. What Snowden's choices tell us is that someone who has read the operational manuals, someone who knows exactly what is possible when an OS leaks its own state, decided that Windows was not worth the risk. He found an alternative. He has used it for the better part of a decade. It is free. It is open source. Every line of its code is publicly auditable. The people who built your Windows machine never offered you that. Whether you switch is your decision. What you should not do is make that decision without knowing what the manuals say.